Hi, folks. I'm Tony.
Robbie.
Josh.
And we're here to talk about the movie Ed Wood.
For hold on,
the sounding board.
For the
yeah,
sounding
you
board.
forgot about that. Jeez.
Man, Robbie.
Oh.
I'll give you the reins here for 1 second and you already mess up.
Sorry, Tony.
Here, since you were so eager to start us off, you can go ahead and begin.
Yes.
Well, the movie's basically about Ed Wood and...
It's basically about Ed Wood?
Well, it's more about him and his friendship with Bela Lugosi. You know, and the movies he makes with him. Which, as a lot of people know, Ed Wood made a lot of bad movies. It's kind of what he's famous for. The most
Like?
Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Like?
Like the...
Let's just give a general idea of what kind of genres he worked in. Sci-fi,
Sci-fi,
horror,
Supernatural.
I think he did a couple westerns, right?
Yeah.
And he did a lot of sexploitation films too, which of course they didn't cover in this
Remember, Robbie,
film.
he did Glenn and Glenda, which was the opening movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Then there's
yeah.
Bride of the Atom.
Mhm. And then Plan 9.
Yes.
How many movies did he make in total?
There's a lot that haven't
Actually,
been released. So
Or found.
yeah, or found. I think the last one they did was they released a 1959 film. I think with Night of the Ghouls that came out in the 80s, something like that. Yeah, and it didn't have any sound or something like that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was a skin flick.
Basically, but you know, I enjoyed the film. I you know, it's a good film. It's a good Tim Burton film. It was a good Johnny Depp film. You know, I mean, and I don't really like Johnny Depp a whole lot. You know, he did a good job. I say, Ed Wood.
I found the movie hilarious. It was non-stop laughs for me. I mean, I really enjoyed this movie because I was just laughing up a storm. Especially, basically Johnny Depp and, I can't think of the name of the guy who plays...
Martin Landau.
Martin Landau.
Yes.
The interactions between those two, they're just hilarious. I really enjoyed their interactions between the two of them. Playing Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi. I thought they were brilliant.
What do you think, Josh?
I thought it was really cool. You know, pretty funny. I never actually heard of Ed Wood until I saw this movie on him. And after watching it, I'm kind of curious about how his movies actually were. Like, you know, I want to experience firsthand.
You gonna go out and look at them on YouTube now?
I want to see if I can find at least clips or something.
You can probably find Glenn and Glenda, Plan 9 from Outer Space. They're all public domain.
Yeah, you could probably find them on YouTube. Or something.
As long as they don't have nudity in them, or the nudity's been edited out.
Actually, you can find nudity on there sometimes. Before they filter out, like Elfin Lead and other things.
Is that true, Robbie? As our
That's
resident
actually
perv,
true. That's true.
you love looking at nudity on YouTube.
It just depends on what kind of category it's in. Like if you try to look up, I got bored trying to see if I can find ways to get away with it. Don't judge. I know you will anyway. But if you look up breast cancer or stuff,
Why don't you just look up naked African women?
because then they will probably want to do it.
Well, anyways, besides that point, you shut up, Rob.
Yeah, shut up.
I got really bored one day. Don't
You know,
judge.
it's a good film. You know, for a Tim Burton film. You know, I kind of like it a little. Well, some movies of Tim Burton, but a lot of them have been pretty bad recent, I guess. But for a Tim Burton film, it was a pretty good film. You know, I mean, he did others like Batman, Beetlejuice, and Ed Wood.
Edward
Sleepy
Scissorhands.
Hollow.
Yeah.
Edward Scissorhands sucks. Mars
What?
Attacks.
But I did like this one for sure. You know, it was a good Tim Burton film. I guess. Let me see this again. This was in '94, and yeah, I guess this was before a lot of his bombs. I guess of now. I guess they wouldn't be bombs, but I consider them bad films anyway.
What do you think of the films of Tim Burton, Robbie?
Truthfully, even though you say you hate it, I liked Edward Scissorhands, and I really liked Mars Attacks.
And The Corpse Bride?
Corpse Bride was okay.
And Nightmare
Big
Before
Fish.
Christmas.
Oh, Big Fish was him?
Yeah, Big Fish was him.
Oh.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
That's Mike McKenna's #1 favorite film.
You couldn't tell the darkness in the film of Pee Wee Herman? He did both of them, right?
The first one.
Was the first
I think
one
he
the
did
one-
the second two. You'd have to ask Mike. He would know that.
Was the first one with the scene where he went to the hospital with all the clowns?
I think so.
Then that's Tim Burton right there.
Yeah, because
It's supposed to be a fun movie, but then it all of a sudden takes a sharp left to darkness.
well, the thing with Pee-wee's Big Adventure, it's wrote by the late Phil Hartman too.
That's true. But this Ed Wood film is a pretty good film, of his. I don't really like a whole lot of Tim Burton films like after Batman, but this was an exception.
So, what don't you like about Tim Burton's films?
I don't know. He kind of, I guess.
Because
I don't want to say he lost his
Robbie
edge.
and Josh are waiting in anticipation to hear your hate. Especially Robbie. Look at him.
Well,
Look at the
I'm
blank,
curious.
stone-like stare of hate coming from him.
I'm curious.
I don't know. I think he kind of lost his edge after a while. I mean.
All his films look the same, and
Yeah. I mean,
and the director of Men in Black pulls Tim Burton off most of the time better than Tim Burton did.
basically, I mean, I don't know. I can't really say that I hate his films. It's really more of I haven't watched more of his recent films, or I guess after Nightmare Before Christmas, But from what I hear, his directing has kind of gone a little bit south since then, since his popularity, I guess, from the late 80s.
Like Dark Shadows is
Yeah,
a good
to
example
mid- to
of
mid,
a horrible movie of his. Robbie liked it.
Like I said, his kind of fame was in the late 80s to mid 90s. And
It was
after
different.
that, yeah. It was different in the era where, everything was happy-go-lucky,
See, what makes Ed Wood interesting, though, is Tim Burton actually steps away a lot from his
Yeah.
standard motif, which goes a long way.
Yeah, because I guess you can say the film's kind of dark, but that's just because of the black and white everywhere.
And that's the way the films were made back then.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be filmed like it was actually made in the 50s. Like it's supposed to be like one of those camera crews falling around Ed Wood, in his life. But it's kind of a nice touch that they made it actually in black and white too, For a film that was filmed in the 90s, it actually looked pretty good, in black and white. So, and
You have to do your homework to do film like that.
so like I said, like you were saying, he did have to step away from his element of dark characters and dark plots, But I could see that Ed Wood was kind of a dark person himself. He would do lots of sleazy things just to get, his way or money.
But a lot of people consider him now the first true indie filmmaker.
Yeah,
Because he was making his own movies before it was in vogue to make his own movies, which happens 15, 20 years after his trying to do movies.
Yeah, and I can see now in today's kind of movies, it's again all about the men who want to make the money are more in control of the films now than ever, So it kind of alludes to that too. The whole, it's my movie, it's my vision.
Like
it's
Orson
my
Welles
art.
was when he talks to Orson Welles, and Orson Welles talking about how producers have recut his films and
Yeah.
recasted them, and he didn't like that because it was his vision, not theirs.
Yeah, and now it's that's how kind of Hollywood is today too. Where directors don't really have control of the movie. It's the people who are above the director.
Well, you think about it, Johnny Depp's a lot like Tim Burton's Martin Landau or Bela Lugosi.
I mean, it's a fun film. Obviously, we're doing a Halloween theme here for the movies that we review. It's not a dark film. It's not a horror film.
It's about a horror filmmaker.
Yeah, it's about a horror filmmaker. Science fiction, which also crosses into, I guess, other genres like horror.
But all his movies are cross-pollinations of... he just sold them to other people as romances.
Yeah, and then he would
sci-fi, techno romances.
Yes, and then...
And all he wanted to do is make sci-fi horror films.
Exactly, but, I can see the very obvious genres that the movie crosses itself with, having Bela Lugosi, the actor from the 1930s Dracula, I think. And then of course all the sci-fi elements, which always cross into with thrillers and suspensions, suspension films and all that. So
Suspense.
yeah,
Suspension is what cars have.
And then it's a good film. It's not dark, it's not scary or anything, but it features a lot of films that are of science fiction, horror,
It's a good biopic.
It's exploitation. But yeah, I think it pretty much covers most of the films that he made, or at least in the genres that he made.
It covers the era where he was actually making films,
Moderately successful or
bad films, not sexploitation, because sexploitation happens 2 films after Plan 9.
Well, like you said, he needed to make films to make his own films.
And he wanted to make movies, so he did the sexploitations. And the sexploitations are still monster films.
Yeah. So,
because I saw a documentary and they show scenes of it, and basically it's a big hairy monster-like creature chasing down a naked lady.
Is it George the Animal Steel playing the
No.
monster? I think he was only in a couple more films after that, I think.
What do you think, Robbie?
I say this was a great movie. I found it funny, hilarious.
You said that already.
Oh,
Do you have anything interesting to say?
Any negatives about the film? Besides, the lack of color.
Give us
No,
give us your father's King Jeff's answer to the film.
the critics say that it's a bad movie, or it's Tim Burton. Tim Burton's an idiot, or Steph would say something along those lines. So that's Jeff's opinion. Really, I've only ever known Ed Wood from the Plan 9 thing, because that's the only thing I've ever really heard about him.
Not Glenn or Glenda?
No,
I
never
thought
heard.
you'd go watch Glenn and Glenda because you have the Norman Bates fetish.
Oh, very funny. But I've only ever heard of Plan 9 and the fact he made Plan 9.
From Jeff?
From a long time ago, from my father, actually.
Did your father make you watch it?
No, he just used to mention it. I've never actually seen Plan 9.
Did he say it was an awesome film?
He said it was, he said he liked it.
Mike McKenna's dad said Star Wars is about as good as Plan 9 from outer space. He said the story content of Star Wars is as bad as that.
Wow.
This is our producer's father telling Mike McKenna that.
Wow.
And that's why he likes Star Trek.
Where it's a show about standing around.
Yeah. And more standing around.
Yes.
Standing around and talking.
And sitting in chairs.
Yes.
And talking. And exposition.
Robbie, here, play with your sister's doll.
Rub all its girly parts. We know you want to.
You can let Josh
That's
grab
what
one.
you like. Here.
Yeah, but I don't play.
Here's something to entertain yourself with.
I don't really do it out loud, so you go and do it.
What else do you think about the film there, Josh?
Yeah. What do you think?
What did you think?
I mean, you're obviously
Fondling the doll inappropriately.
well. Besides that, you're kind of new to this Ed Wood character. Obviously, you've seen Big Fish, or not Big Fish. Well, this is the first time you've heard of Ed Wood, and of course you've heard about Tim Burton from Big Fish. Well, what is your any negatives, positives of the film?
Well, I can't really name these bomb, but
Well, if you didn't like the film, it's fine for you to say you don't like the film.
I like the film.
Okay. I'm just saying, because if you're fighting yourself trying to please Robbie and Tony...
Yeah.
I'm not just bad with words sometimes. I don't actually watch a lot of Tim Burton's work. I'm mostly familiar with the claymations and stuff, but I did really like Big Fish, and I like some of the other live action stuff like Beetlejuice. I like that. I don't know why people call him a bad director or whatever. I think it's actually pretty cool, to be honest, in my opinion.
I think he's a bad director, like George Lucas.
I actually like Star Wars, so or any of the George Lucas films. Really.
Huh?
I'm not actually real big on George Lucas stuff. I don't like Star Wars at all.
Hear that, Robbie? He doesn't like Star Wars at all.
My dad made me watch all of them 3 times.
See, You know why? Because he's a Back to the Future kid.
I did. Actually, thinking
He made CJ watch it 100 times in one summer.
it was it still is one of my favorite sci-fi movies.
So you guys have something in common.
Any last words, Robbie?
I'd say if you can find the movie, you should. It's definitely worth a watch.
I'll give it a. I guess there is more to Ed Wood than just this film here. Obviously, they just covered a portion of his life, probably what 2 years of his life, and
Longer than that.
a little bit longer than that.
Because we get big time jumps when he's looking for funding. Because Bride of the Atom went out of production, and then it took nearly 2 years for him to get funding.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you can say they covered sections of his life, but of course, this is the safe material they can use because he's obviously done sexploitation.
All you're talking about is the safe material because this is a Disney film at the same
Disney
time.
Film, Touchstone, obviously. But there's more to Ed Wood than just this. We're like an hour and a half film of it.
It's like any filmmaker.
Mm-hmm. Of course, they obviously had time constraints about.
So, Robbie,
doing it. Mm-hmm.
Are you gonna do your project, Rob, or Bob?
Oh, very funny.
The Robbie hair story.
Robbie with a Y or Robbie with an IE.
How about this, Robbie? Count Bobula.
Robula? Robbie from outer space?
Bride of the Robbie. It's an atomic age movie about a big-haired Jewish child who gets nuked by the Germans and comes out as this immortal nuclear creature who has a big fascination with his sister.
I have nothing to say to that.
Well, you just said something, so you have something to say.
Yeah, you did.
What?
Even the dog has something to say about it.
You have water on your nose?
You got water in your nose? That's
Crying?
That could be.
it's not.
Imagine that the water on his nose can be a western called "There's Water on Your Nose," and Robbie is traveling the Old West trying to find water, and he keeps missing all the watering holes. Robbie, you notice that all the films are very Ed Woodish?
Yes.
That's the way Ed Wood pitched films.
Yes.
Rob Woodish?
Rob Woodish. Rob's going to make a porno called Rob Wood.
Oh, God.
Hardwood.
No, he's going to call it Bob Wood.
Hardwood.
Hardwood starring Bob Wood.
That'll be an action movie though. Hardwood.
And it's starring Bob Wood as that's his stage name.
His Hollywood name?
Yes. And Bob Wood then goes on magical adventures on ponies.
Anyway, go see the movie if you can. It's a great movie.
Yep.
Wouldn't you agree?
Sure. It's a good film. But it's not for everybody for sure though.
Not for everybody, but I'd still say...
It's not for every Tim Burton fan.
Yeah.
That's
true.
what's the easiest way to phrase it.
Yeah.
Because everyone expects
A certain style
Beetlejuice.
from Tim Burton.
They expect Beetlejuice or Nightmare Before Christmas.
Basically, yeah.
That's why films like Ed Wood or Sleepy Hollow don't work with the Tim Burton fans.
Yeah.